Alex Jensen on the McEwen Pavilion floor on this Monday evening. After a 65-50 St. Mary's win over Utah Valley, let's break the last week down on Gaels Chalk Talk. The Gaels started the week on Monday by beginning conference play and hosting USF, their Cross Bay rivals. The Gaels with a 22-point win over the Dons to improve to 9-1 at that time. And big in that one for the Gaels was their defense, as St. Mary's has now, coming into this game against Utah Valley, began to creep in to the tops in the country in scoring defense. And against the Dons, they hold USF to 28% from the floor for the game. That includes 25% on 7 of 28 shooting in the second half, as again, Evan Fitzner led the way in that one for the Gaels. Then a career-high 20 points and 9 rebounds. Dane Pinot also chipped in with 14 rebounds, as 3 Gaels scored in double figures again in that game. Also, the turnover numbers down for St. Mary's, just 8 on the night, as they did not give USF many chances to capitalize on their mistakes. The Gaels then headed south and took on Santa Clara, and for the second time in a row, another 22-point win, as St. Mary's won that game 81-59, improving to 2-0 in West Coast Conference play. And again, defensively for St. Mary's, you look at Jared Brownridge, a guy who has killed St. Mary's over the last couple years. St. Mary's and Santa Clara have split the season series the last 2 years, both coming on game winners for Jared Brownridge, but the Gaels held the first-team all-conference guard for the Broncos in check at just 7 of 15 shooting. Joe Rehan played outstanding defense on Brownridge, and of course, if you can slow Brownridge down, you've got a nice chance against the Broncos. But again, Dane Pinot, 7 of 7 from the floor, as this was really the bigs game for St. Mary's. Dane Pinot, Jock Landale, and Evan Fitzner all had outstanding outings for St. Mary's, all 3 of them in double figures. Jock Landale with 10 points off the bench in just 15 minutes. A new career high in this one for Evan Fitzner with 21 points. And Dane Pinot, again, the double-double at 14 points and 10 rebounds. That brings us to this game this evening, and St. Mary's, the threes were not falling for the Gaels tonight, but they found other ways to get it done. Just 2 of 17 outside the arc, but the Gaels pounded the boards for 49 total rebounds tonight in their 65-50 win over Utah Valley. Out-rebounded the Wolverines 49-35 and had 40 points in the paint, a 40-16 advantage in the paint for the Gaels. And again, you knew at some point the threes would not fall. It's almost unrealistic to think that this team could continue shooting the 3 at a 47% clip, although it wouldn't be far-fetched considering the shooters that this team has across their rotation. But again, shooting the 3 at a 47% clip, probably not realistic to expect St. Mary's to continue shooting the 3 that well. And the threes tonight not falling, 2 of 17, but again, their effort on the inside was the difference in this one, as the Gaels turned 12 offensive rebounds into 21 second chance points. And once again, defensively, we talk about the St. Mary's and Randy Bennett's team continuing to get better defensively. Utah Valley just 6 of 30 in the first half, 11 of 32 in the second half. The Wolverines just 27% overall for the game from the floor. The Gaels now look ahead to a New Year's Eve matchup with BYU, and a much anticipated matchup here in Moraga, as I'm sure it is in Provo, as the Gaels take on a BYU team who are starting to play some good basketball. They have won 3 out of 4, including some nice wins, a blowout win over New Mexico in the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, and an 8-point win over a good Northern Iowa team in the Diamond Head Classic. That's a Northern Iowa team who owns 2 top 5 RPI wins. So BYU, after dropping their opening game to Harvard, 85-82, get a win against New Mexico and a win against Northern Iowa. And you've got to watch out for one of the best players in the conference, in Kyle Collinsworth, the 6'6" point guard, is joined by another preseason first-team member in Chase Fisher, who, after scoring 4 points against Harvard, responded with a Diamond Head Classic record 41, getting hot from outside the arc against New Mexico, and followed that up with a 26-point performance against Northern Iowa. So BYU, a very high-powered offensive team under Dave Rose. They will come in here looking to knock the Gaels from the ranks of the unbeaten in the West Coast Conference after 2 conference games. BYU will be playing their first conference matchup here in Moraga on New Year's Eve.